Welcome to my second YouTube channel video. My name is Camille Seaman, and I am here in front of my house in Clare, Ireland. And this episode, I will tell you a little bit about how I came to be living here and why I left the United States. Before I tell you that story, I want to start with this story, which is a story that I heard a long time ago. It takes place in India, and it's about a man who was walking, looking for a new home. And he came across an old man standing by the side of the road in front of a new town. And he asked the old man, he said, "Do you live here?" And the old man said, "Yes." And he said, Can you tell me, what is it like here? I'm looking for a new place to live." And the old man said to him, "Well, what's it like where you're from?" And the guy said, "Oh, it's terrible. We all have very high fences. You don't trust anyone. Could be robbed. The people aren't friendly. That's part of why I want to move." And the old man said, "Well, it's just like that here." And the man said, "Oh, thank you," and he walked away. And along came another man looking for a place to live, and he came across this old man standing by the road, and he said, "Excuse me, can you tell me what is it like here? I'm looking for a new place to live." And the old man said, "Well, what's it like where you're from?" And this man said, "Oh, it's wonderful. The neighbors, we know each other. We don't lock our doors. We feel very safe. It's a fantastic place to live." And the old man said, "Well, it's just like that here." And I like this story because I think it's true that you take with you who you are no matter where you go. My life in California, I was really open and happy to know as many people as I could. I was one of those crazy people that would talk to you if I met you on the street, even if I didn't know you. If I saw you wearing a nice jacket, I'd say, "You look very nice in that jacket," even if I didn't know you. I am 51 years old. And I have a daughter who is 21 years old. A few years ago, back when we were living in the Bay Area of California, I saw the writing on the wall that she was spending more time with her friends and less time with me, and you could see that pretty soon that nest was going to be empty. Living in the Bay Area is one of the most expensive places on the planet to live, and as a person who was working on ship all over the world, including places like Antarctica and the Arctic, I literally was paying $3,400 a month for a 2-bedroom live-work space that I occupied for only 6 months of the year. So basically, for 6 months of the year, I was paying that amount of money just to have my stuff there in storage. So I'm just going to tell you the story of what happened. Having a child that was going to go off to university, my nest empty, it was looking more and more ridiculous to stay paying so much in a place that was literally unsustainable. And by that I mean that for how many years could I pay that? Meaning I could never really save enough to buy my own property. It just wasn't going to work. And being a seaman, as my aunt says, a sea woman, I need the ocean. I need the sea. For some people it's lakes, some people it's mountains, some people it's the woods. For me, it's the ocean, and it has to be the ocean. In California, the chances of me affording an ocean property was nil. Probably because I had spent 29 years in California. I'd got used to watching the sun set into the ocean. Now, that might seem like a small detail, but for someone like me who so much of my well-being, my mental state, my sense of happiness, and my sense of peacefulness and tranquility comes from my surroundings. And that's part of why so much of what I do is outside. Like right now, it is so beautiful here. I am looking at the Shannon River at the mouth of the Atlantic Ocean. And it just happens to be a beautiful day here with very little wind. The last few days we had a huge storm, and I'll show you some of that footage. But I'm getting off the point. The point is that moving, for example, to Maine, that was on my list. I knew I needed some place that had still some wild. I needed a place that had access to outside and not a lot of people. One of the things that ended up happening is, my daughter, I would sometimes drive her to school or something, and after spending 2 months on ship in some remote part of our planet, where there's very few people, very very few grocery stores, if any, there was just nature. And then to come back to the Bay Area where it's 6 lanes of traffic going nowhere fast, with supermarkets that are literally like a stimulation overload, it just felt more and more like a place where I wasn't happy. Even though for 29 years there it really had been home for me. My daughter recognized this, and she said, after I returned home from Ireland, she said, "You should just move to Ireland." Just matter-of-factly, and I thought, well, you don't just move to another country. And I had never lived in another country, and I just dismissed it. Being the Jedi that she is, a few weeks later, she said, "How's the house search going?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "In Ireland, you just go online, have a look, see what's out there." So I was like, yeah, why not? I'll just look. Looking on the internet, I found quite a few properties in places I knew it would, if it was Ireland, it would have to be the West Coast. And I want to just back up a little and say, before I chose Ireland, I had been to 3 places that I thought were great potential places for me. And the top of that list was actually Scotland. But with Brexit, I was like, no way, that's not going to work. And also the pound is still, or was, very strong and against the dollar. And so that knocked Scotland off the list. And I was also looking at Celtic France in Brittany, the area of Brest. And I was looking at the Azores, islands in the middle of the Atlantic that are absolutely stunning. It's like Hawaii in the middle of the Atlantic with a Portuguese twist, which is interesting because even in Hawaii, there's a lot of Portuguese. The Azores were knocked off the list primarily because of the language, and I felt that I might feel a little isolated. They are quite small islands, and I knew that in the long run might be really risky. The second option for me was Brest in Brittany in France, and again the language seemed like it might be an issue, so that knocked France off of it. And then Ireland, I had always, every time I come here, had such a great feeling here, a sense of welcome. And I must say, after living 29 years in California, where it is this weird sort of acid yellow greens of dryness, I was literally missing the wet and the green and the rain. And so Ireland has plenty of rain. And here it is, it's December 31st, and you can see it's very green. Ireland seemed like a very good choice. Also, the language is, it's a sort of English. I knew I could make it that way. So I had this list of 10 properties, maybe a few more. I decided to come to Ireland at the worst time of year, the darkest, coldest time. I rented a house in Belmullet, which is up in County Mayo. And that was going to be my base from which to go explore these other properties. So I have to tell you, I looked at houses in Sligo, I looked at houses in Mayo. There was this one house that had literally, I'm not kidding, its own stone circle in its yard. all of them had fantastic views. That was part of my requirement, is I wanted to be able to see the water, not have it obstructed by trees or other houses. Or I didn't want to live in a village. I wanted to live like I am here in the outskirts, in a rural area. So we went through all these houses, weighing and measuring the distances from airports, because I still have to travel, and I want people to come visit me, and distance to supermarkets, things like that. The second to last house that I visited was this house here in Queren. When I arrived here to meet the landlord, and he was showing me around the house, there was something about the quality of light, because this house is south facing. It has fantastic light and a huge sky. Like behind me, I can see the Shannon River, and on the other side of it is County Kerry. There are windmills. It's a beautiful place. And I can literally watch the sun travel across the sky and the clouds, which are always changing. Sometimes they blow from the west, and sometimes they blow from the east, and sometimes they blow from the north. It's fantastic. So this is a great place for sunrises and sunsets. And this light, even inside the house, it gives it a warmth. And halfway through the tour of the house, he says, "Have you seen the cliffs?" And not being from here, I said, "What cliffs?" And he literally dropped everything, thank you, Cian, and drove us to the cliffs of Kilkee. When I saw that, I took one look at my friend who was touring with me, who is now my boyfriend, and lives with me, said, "I'll take it." In Ireland, I have found, by accident, a fantastic place. Right now, because it's a very clear day, I can literally see the outline of Dingle Peninsula. It is a special place. We have our own dolphin that live just here in the Shannon River at the mouth of the Atlantic. At night, the sky here is incredible. Literally, you have the Milky Way just shining bright over on the evenings when there is no clouds, which can be months between. But in the summer, there were quite a few evenings with the sky heavy with stars. I went home to California. I packed up all of my belongings. I put them in a shipping container, and I left. I shipped everything here because my printer alone is worth $5,000. If I had to replace my printer, that literally was half the cost of the shipping container. So it made sense to have all of my belongings. I have huge crates of framed artwork that it's like I have to take it with me. I can't leave it. All of my belongings came with me, my favorite furniture, pots, pans, my life, in a 20-foot shipping container. And it arrived here 2 months after it was sent from San Francisco. Having lived here now, this is going to be my 3rd year coming up here in Ireland. And I should say that 2020 was very special. Because of this pandemic, it's the most time I've actually spent here continuously. And when I say here, I mean literally right here. I have not gone further than Limerick since March. What's wonderful is I've learned all of the birds. We have a beautiful garden full of birds, and I've walked this place in so many different ways. What's wonderful is that you are able to walk. There is nature right here. And here on the Loop Head Peninsula, there is so much to do and see. And because the light is always changing, the weather is always changing, it never gets old. It actually becomes this wonderful thing to find the rhythm of the place. And you might hear a little bit of road traffic. That's highly unusual. I think it's because it's New Year's Eve and people are doing their last minute shopping. I don't know. But usually I hear maybe 4 or 5 cars pass this place a day. So life in Ireland, there are pros and cons, and I'll talk more about that in another video. But I hope this helped answer the question of why I left the United States and how I came to be in Ireland. I do want to mention that I was very naive about moving here. And by that I mean that I just moved here. I didn't think about visas or anything like that. Thank goodness that's all sorted now and I have my permanent resident visa. But I wouldn't recommend that. It was very stressful for a long time trying to sort that out. Next time, I will tell you a little bit more about the work I did for the last 20 plus years in the Arctic and Antarctic. So if you want to see that, if you liked this and you want to see more, please click the like or subscribe button. And thank you again for spending the time watching this video. You're still here. It's over. That's it. That's all I have for this episode. But thanks for sticking around. Maybe now is a great time to go outside no matter where you are and get some fresh air. I hope you really enjoyed it. And because you did stick around, I'll throw in this little extra bonus. Enjoy and thank you. See you next time. episode.